Hey, what's up everybody, Nexil here. Today we're playing Kingdom Hearts Union Cross and we're going to be talking about the Kingdom Hearts 3 Reaper and the Kingdom Hearts 3 Sorcerer deal that just dropped a few days ago in Global. Now these are both reprint banners, but there's something about them that does make them better than their original release. So as always, we're going to talk about the banners, we'll talk about the medal, the draw odds, and finally my thoughts and recommendations on whether or not I think you should be pulling for either of these two medals. Now let's go ahead and start by talking about what is probably the best banner out right now is going to be the Supernova Plus Kingdom Hearts 3 Reaper deal. So with any new banner or avatar board or sale in the Moogle shop, you want to see how many days it's going to be active for. So in this case, you have until July 23rd, and that's still 8 days away, and that's a lot of time to do a lot of different things. So during that time, you can decide if you want to pull for the Reaper, you can build up jewels in case you can't mercy it right now, but you will be able to in 8 days after doing things like dailies or logging in. And during that time, again, I always recommend waiting until the last day and seeing everything that's available to you. So during those 8 days, they can drop a new avatar board, they can drop a new medal banner, they can drop traits in the Moogle shop for something that you got from the draw points banner. So I always recommend waiting till the last day because your jewels are very, very valuable. They're the most valued item in this game. Remember that jewels that came out like 3 years ago, the jewels I had 3 years ago, they're still just as good as the jewels that I have today. Jewels don't devalue, and this game is always going to pump out ways to figure out ways to make you spend your jewels because again, they're just so valuable. But in terms of the banner itself, every single pull is going to cost you 3,000 jewels, and then you'll be getting 3 Kingdom Hearts 3 medals, which will generally be used as sub-slots. You sell them for draw points, or you keep them for some sort of special attack. So for example, Kingdom Hearts 3 Anti-Aqua still gives 100% magic damage reflection, and that's still relevant for things like PvP and PvE. Every single pull also gets you 1 trait medal for the Reaper, which is really good just to stack it as you pull for the medal. You'll also be getting 6 5-star or higher medals, which will generally be used as sub-slots if they're 7-star, or you're going to be selling them for draw points. Every single pull also gets you 10 VIP coins, which remember, VIP coins expire at the end of the month. So let's say you do your pulls, you end up with 50 VIP coins, July 31st rolls around, and then when we go into August 1st, if you didn't spend those VIP coins, they're just gone. So make sure by the end of the month, you spend your VIP coins. Another good thing about VIP coins is that you can use them on any banner that is currently active. So for example, let's just say you pull for the Reaper, you had some traits from the last time it came out, and then you get perfect traits and still end up with 10 VIP coins. Now let's say you also had a Final Fantasy VII Remake Sephiroth who's maybe just 1 good trait short. So what you can do is while the Final Fantasy VII Remake banner is active, you spend the 10 VIP coins that you got from pulling for the Reaper and you use them to get a trait medal for Sephiroth in the avatar boards. And that's just really good because it gives you some versatility with where you spend your VIP coins and how you can squeeze out a few extra traits for medals that you need to perfect trait. Every single pull will also give you 3 power gems, which is just icing on the cake. You don't pull for the gems, you pull because of the medal itself. So remember, those 3 gems are just an additional bonus for spending 3,000 jewels. Now, the best thing about this banner and also with the Sorcerer banner is that the reprints are only going to be 3 pull mercies. That means you're going to spend 9,000 jewels to get a copy of this medal, as opposed to the original banner where you had to spend 15,000 jewels. So that's 6,000 jewels saved. Remember that after you pull for the medal, you still have to buy trait packs to give it perfect traits. I usually say it takes about 20 to 30 trait medals to give a medal perfect traits, so you'll be spending an additional 2,000 to 3,000 jewels in the Moogle shop, and even after that, the Reaper perfect traits is going to cost you 12,000 jewels. That's still cheaper than a 5 pull mercy, which costs you 15,000 jewels, and that's just to get that 15,000 jewel medal as well as 5 trait medals. So you get so much more value doing a 3 pull mercy because you can get that medal for cheaper, and remember, jewels are the highest valued item in this game. So let's go ahead and talk about the medal itself and what makes the Reaper such a fantastic medal. So I say this in a lot of different videos, it's a copy medal. And copy medals are among the best medals in the game for a lot of different reasons. So the Reaper, here is the card template for it. As you can see, it is a forward copy medal, meaning it will copy the next medal over. Meaning that if you put this in your shared slot, if you put it as the friend medal, the friends are not going to get any use out of it. this metal has its highest value when it comes before another metal. So you can put it in the pet slot, you can put it in the first slot, you can put it in the fourth slot. Just please, please, please don't put it in the friend metal. Don't make it your shared metal, because the people that borrow it are not going to be getting any value out of this metal. So in terms of the metal itself, remember that we're just going to go over the big highlights for it. The special attack and the supernova attack give all metal strength. So the special attack, activating it will give you plus 1000 strength to all of your metals with extra attack that's plus 2000. And then the supernova attack will give all metals plus 4000 metal strength. Now remember, it's very important that it says all metals, because it doesn't matter if that metal is power. It doesn't matter if it's speed, magic, upright, reverse. That metal is going to be getting a bonus just by activating the Reaper. Now, one of the best things about the Reaper is because it's also a copy metal, it copies effect. And remember that strength increases or base strength increases are part of the effect. So if we go ahead and take a look at a setup that I have here, just something to kind of illustrate what the point is. So let's hide that and let's hide that. So if we look at the setup here, we have our Reaper in the 4th slot, and then we have Kingdom Hearts 3 Sora and Riku in the 5th slot. So the Reaper, let's go ahead and put it like this. The Reaper is going to copy Sora and Riku. And remember, part of Sora and Riku's effect is speed metal strength plus 3000. Now remember what I said about activating the Reaper. It gives you all metal strength plus 1000. So activating the Reaper copies the effect of Kingdom Hearts 3 Sora and Riku, and it will give plus 1000 metal strength here, and then plus the 3000 speed metal strength. So activating the Reaper, it's like giving Pseudo plus 4000 speed metal strength, which is really, really good. The fact that it adds additional strength on top of the effect that it's copying. That's just really good value, and it just makes this metal even stronger. So that's the big take-home points for the Reaper. Let's go ahead and look at the draw odds, which are important for the Reaper and the Sorcerer. So one thing you'll notice, if you go into the draw odds of either of the two banners, you have a chance for pulling the other metal. So for example, let's say we're pulling for the Kingdom Hearts 3 Reaper, we're pulling from this banner here. If we look at the draw odds, you still have a chance to get the Sorcerer. So let's go ahead and head back to the Reaper, and let me go ahead and talk about my thoughts and recommendations on whether or not I think you should be pulling for this metal. So if you don't have one of the newest copy metals, which is either going to be this Reaper or Kingdom Hearts 3 Ansem the Wise, if you don't have either of those two, I really highly recommend that you pull for this. Copy metals are among the best metals in the game for a lot of different reasons. So remember that copy metals can copy anything, which is really good, because as the game evolves, new staple metals come out. Remember that your staples are going to be just that upright green that you use every single time, or that upright red that you use every single time. Those staples get replaced by new staples. However, because copy metals copy the best metal in the game, even as your staples change, that copy metal can stay there. You don't have to keep replacing it. So for example, if we go to my setups, so let's say we were looking at that Fairy Star setup where we have Kingdom Hearts 3, Sora and Riku in the 5th slot. Now let's just say it gets outdated. In this case, we're going to use Final Fantasy VII Remake Tifa as our example. So let's say this metal gets outdated, and then you just move the Tifa here, and you still get good value out of this Reaper. So the Reaper went from copying a good metal to copying a better metal. So one reason copy metals last so long is because they can always copy the next best metal, they can copy the best metal in the game. And usually what makes a metal fantastic is going to be its effects. That's why whenever I talk about metals, I talk about effects being super amazing, because copy metals will copy effects. Another good thing about copy metals is that it continuously prevents you from needing to spend more jewels on multiple different staples. So for example, let's go ahead and take a look at our Darkgnaw, just for example here. So let's say we only had one Dissidia Sephiroth, for example. So if we only have our one, we don't want to spend more jewels to get two. Usually it's not worth it to have two copies of any metal, usually. However, having the Reaper here, it's sort of like we have two copies of Sephiroth, because it's just going to copy its effect, it's going to copy the multiplier, so it's like we have two copies of Sephiroth, even though we only have one. And that's really good because it saves you jewels. So like I was saying earlier with the Tifa and the Kingdom Hearts 3 Sora and Riku example, because it's always able to copy the next best metal or the best metal in the format, you don't need to keep buying that best metal in the format. Let's say you're a new player, you don't really have a lot of jewels, you don't really have a lot of metals, you just put this copy metal in the pet slot and then you copy any friend metal that you want. Odds are if you join a good enough party, they're going to be sharing the best metals in the game. So let's just say you're just starting off and you only have a nominate, which is super good, and then you have a copy metal. So it's funny because that's also a copy metal. But anyways, we put our Reaper here, and let's say we look at our friends list and someone's sharing like a Supernova plus Xemnas, which is an amazing metal. So even though we don't have a Supernova plus Xemnas, having a copy metal in the final slot, especially a forward copying one, is like we sort of have a Xemnas, and then we still get the friend Xemnas effect, which is really, really good. So again, copy metals, they're able to copy the best metal in the game, and they can save you a lot of jewels. Now, speaking about the Reaper specifically, one good thing about the Reaper is that reverse power slots are very awkwardly placed. So for example, let's go ahead and take a look at the Starlight, where for some reason it's just a random reverse power slot in the middle of upright slots and magic and speed slots. So remember, one great thing about copy metals is that they keep their slot multiplier. So even though we'll be using it to copy a speed metal here, so let's go ahead and just pull up a speed metal. So even though the Reaper is copying a speed metal, the Reaper still maintains its 6.755 multiplier, so it fixes for color and attribute, which is just really strong. It's able, again, the best thing about copy metals is that you can take a tricolored keyblade like the Starlight, and then you can make it monocolored just by having this here, and then let's say we have another copy metal. Let's get our Ansem the Wise, and we got this here, and then in the pet slot we're gonna put a speed metal. And boom, we just, even though it's three different colors, we just converted the last part of this Keyblade into an all-speed Keyblade, and that's really good. Looking at other Keyblades that have awkward slots for reverse power, if we look at the Fairy Stars, it's this really awkward fourth slot that is reverse power. And usually with the final few slots, so like the fourth slot, the fifth slot, and the pet slot, you want to have damage metals. And in order to get the most amount of damage, you need to take advantage of the Keyblade multiplier. So in this case, we're taking advantage of a 7.125 multiplier to get this effect off. So really good because copy metals can fix for slot multiplier. So all in all, if you don't have a copy of the Reaper or Kingdom Hearts 3 Ansem the Wise, even if you do have a copy of Kingdom Hearts 3 Ansem the Wise, I do recommend pulling on the Reaper because I have never run into a scenario ever in the 5, almost 6 years I've been playing this game where a copy metal like just became bad instantaneously. The only way that copy metals can become bad is if they're replaced by a copy metal that's just a higher strength. So for example, before the Reaper came out, everyone was using Angelic Amber. And even though Angelic Amber is a tier 9, people were still using it just because copy metals are just so strong. The only thing that can kill a copy metal is another copy metal of the same attribute. So as long as they don't release a tier 11 reverse power copy metal right off the gates of tier 11s, this is going to last you a long time. And remember, it's a cheap banner. You only spent 12,000 jewels to get a perfect copy of it, and that's really strong. So enough gushing about the Reaper. Let's go ahead and talk about the next metal, which is going to be the Sorcerer. So let's go ahead and pull up the banner. And really, when we look at the banner, it's not any different than the Reaper deal. So the Reaper deal gives you power gems, whereas... Ooh, I clicked the Reaper deal again. So the Reaper deal will give you power gems, whereas the Sorcerer deal is going to give you magic gems, and then at the end of your 3 pulls, you get the Sorcerer medal, and you get the trait medals for Sorcerer as opposed to the Reaper every single time you pull from the Sorcerer banner. They're pretty much exactly the same, except the featured medal is different and the gems change a little bit. But the draw odds stay the same. If you pull for the Sorcerer, there's a chance you can get the Reaper. So it's pretty much the same banner and the same draw odds. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the Sorcerer itself. So let's go ahead and pull up the card. So this is going to be the card for the Kingdom Hearts 3 Sorcerer, and in terms of a medal, it's okay. Honestly, I think that reverse magic is probably the weakest attribute out right now. It's not quite a staple because of a lot of different things. Number one, it doesn't buff your general strength and debuff the enemy's general defense. Its supernova attack doesn't really give you any buffs whatsoever, so it's kind of a weak medal in my opinion, as opposed to things that are out right now like Kingdom Hearts 3 Dark Riku, Kingdom Hearts 3 Vanitas. So there's a lot of different medals that do self-buffing and they have buffing in their supernova attack. Unfortunately, the Sorcerer doesn't do either of these two things, but again, reverse magic is probably the worst color right now. In terms of utility though and versatility, the Sorcerer is probably the best reverse magic medal that's out right now, mainly because it has both PvE and PvP utility. One of the best things about the Sorcerer is that activating its special attack gives you 100% magic damage reflection, and I said it earlier with Kingdom Hearts 3 Anti-Aqua, that's still a relevant skill to have in both PvE and PvP. In terms of more PvP utility that you get out of the Sorcerer, its supernova attack gives you 100% defense boost piercing. And I said it in the defense piercer deal or whatever it was called. That's probably the best skill for any sort of PvP medal, is 100% defense boost piercing with the supernova attack. That means 100% of that damage is going through. A lot of the medals have like a 30% defense boost pierce with its special attack, or like a 50% one with Kingdom Hearts 3 Vanitas, and that means only 50% of that damage is going through. Having 100% defense boost piercing on the supernova attack means all of that damage is going through. If you reactivate the supernova with something like a supernova plus Kingdom Hearts 3 Aqua, you get that again. So we see it a lot in PvP nowadays. The best setups usually have medals that have 100% defense boost piercing on the supernova attack. But aside from the PvP utility, it's pretty vanilla otherwise. Again, it misses the general strength buff and the general defense debuff, and that's rough because that's usually the hardest buff and debuff in order to fill out. The multiplier is just okay, because when you're fighting one target, it's amazing at 21.14. And remember, this is a PvP medal. PvP, you're only fighting one enemy at a time. But when it comes to quests that have multiple enemies, you're hitting an 18.64 multiplier, which is pretty low. And you're going to be hitting that often in terms of things like big bonus challenges or quests where they give you like a barrier master plus the boss enemy. So the multiplier is just okay. The PvE utility is just okay. And really, I don't think reverse magic has a fantastic representative right now. I would say Master Xehanort's good, but it costs you 30,000 jewels to get it, which just isn't worth it. So in terms of reverse magic medals, yes, this is the best one out right now just because it gives you dual utility with PvE and PvP, but at the same time, it's not really a great medal in itself. So my thoughts and recommendations on the Sorcerer banner: if you're really struggling with reverse content and you have literally no better options, maybe pull for the Sorcerer. Truthfully, I don't think it's worth it, unless you really need that reverse magic staple. But there's still so many other reverse medals that are better than this. So for example, Kingdom Hearts 3 Dark Riku is better than this, Kingdom Hearts 3 Vanitas is better, Supernova plus Xemnas A. So there's a lot of different reverse medals that I think are just better than the Sorcerer in terms of passing reverse content. However, if you don't have a 100% magic medal reflection medal, a 100% magic damage reflection medal, then this is going to be a good option for you. So this is good for the people that missed Elsa and you still don't have a Kingdom Hearts 3 Anti-Aqua. Remember that 100% magic reflect can easily turn the tides in terms of PvP, especially if someone wasn't paying attention to their setups. They kept their magic blade as like their first keyblade. You activate this once and you pretty much instantly win that round. Remember that 100% magic reflection is still relevant for PvE, because with Colosseum nowadays, what people are doing, they climb as high as they can, and then they find the next magic enemy, and that magic enemy is able to pretty much kill itself because you use 100% magic damage reflection. The enemy hits you for what feels like a bajillion points of damage, and guess what? 100% magic damage reflection, all of it gets bounced back to the enemy. So 100% magic reflection is still really relevant for content today. So if you don't have an Elsa or an Anti-Aqua, maybe this is going to be a good pull for you, because having that reflection can pretty much mean the difference between you placing in the thousands for PvE Colosseum or the 100s for PvE Colosseum. So it's not a bad banner, but I would definitely pull for the Reaper before this one if you don't have a copy of the Reaper already. So with that being said, that's the end of this video. Thank you all so much for watching. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to leave them down in the comments below, and I'd be happy to answer when I have the time. If you'd like to join my Discord, get some off-hours help, and talk about Kingdom Hearts Union Cross when I'm not making videos, go ahead and join. It's right down that way, right there. Just type that link into your URL and you are good to go. But that's all for now. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, until next time, take it easy.